guys, welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back with another market watch, and I'm actually considering doing another market watch sometime this week or later this week, depending on when you're watching this. So the reason is the NAWCQ are currently taking place, or have taken place, probably have taken place by the time you watch this video, and there's been a few standout performers throughout the weekend, and it's been very interesting to watch, especially as typically some of the North American players tend to play very heavy combo decks, and I've seen quite a lot of control basically. So it's going to be interesting to see what the breakdown of the deck entrants and the deck lists that come out of the NAWCQ, just to see kind of like what the overall breakdown was, because I've been seeing a lot of labyrinth. But anyway, let's just get straight into it, ladies and gents. Now, with this market watch in particular, it comes with a caveat. Because of the NAWCQ, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a slump in the market, because people are going to start shifting their cards. Now, granted, the new season starts pretty quickly, so regionals are going to start back up fairly soon. There's already a couple of OTS events that are happening here in the UK. So I can only imagine that it's going to be the same for North America, and people are going to start to kind of like move away from this current format with the ban list in mind. So with some of the cards that I'm talking about, ladies and gents, just keep that in mind. So I wanted to just talk about cards that are potentially going to see a little bit of hype. Lovely Labyrinth, or Lovely Lady Labyrinth, whatever you want to call her. She is a card that hasn't had a reprint as yet, so she's only a one of in a strategy, and she's fairly inexpensive at the moment. We're looking like £3.50 in the UK, which is it's basically a penny stunk. But this card seems to be doing bits and pieces. This is probably the main card in Labyrinth strategy that just dwindles your opponent out of resources, just continuously popping a card on your turn, on your opponent's turn. It's a little bit like DPE. The reason it's only a one of is because it can't easily get itself on the field. In fact, it can't get itself on the field, so people don't really want to draw this because it's a bit of a brick. They just want to make it hit the field and recur it with big welcome Labyrinth. So definitely a card worth keeping in mind, ladies and gents. If you do have it, it's potentially a good time to sell it. I can imagine that this card's going to get reprinted soon, so definitely keep that in mind. We've already got a welcome Labyrinth reprint, so I feel like the rest of the Labyrinth cards are going to be on the reprint radar coming forward. Next up, another card that's in some heavy play over the weekend, Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. Say that 5 times fast at the end of a night. So this card is basically like just a giant book of moon, but it affects the player, not the actual monsters. So your opponent has to do the action, which is a interesting distinguishable trait that this card has over other cards, a little bit like evenly matched. So I've seen this card just obliterate a Vanquished Soul board like it's no tomorrow. Just absolutely just clear the board. Well, at least flip a couple of the monsters down so they can't tag in or out, or if they do, this will resolve afterwards anyway, so booking their monsters. And it just gets rid of the link monster as well. So a very powerful card, again played in Labyrinth control strategy. So this has only got a singular print, which is Darkwind Blast. I can imagine it will be up for reprint soon, and it was fairly expensive when it first came out, but at the moment, again, this is a penny stunk, and I can imagine that this card is just going to inflate in price just because so many people have been playing it, and people are starting to realize this is a nice little bit of a tech, even for going second, if you can kind of like establish some kind of board. With the amount of one card combos that exist in the game, having this as a nice little backup to your end board, or even just a side deck option, is super powerful. So keep this price in mind, ladies and gents. Pennies at the moment could potentially turn into pounds. Next, Exo Sisters. Oh boy, I seen a tweet from Pac, and he was saying that this deck and these cards were the bane of his existence. Exo Sisters, a rogue strategy, again fairly powerful. I feel personally that it's still missing 1 or 2 cards to be as influential of the deck as it could be. Basically, I feel like it just needs one more push or one more card just to kind of like have a little bit recursion, because once the board gets broken, and it is a very heavy control style strategy, once the board gets broken, it's so hard to recover in the deck. I mean, evenly match obliterates this deck. It's crazy. So definitely worth keeping in mind, ladies and gents. And Exo Sister Martha is probably the most notable one out of the strategy. She's the best one. Special summons one from deck. Does Xeno lock you into Exo Sisters, but nevertheless, she's still a very powerful card. And again, penny stunk at the moment, ladies and gents, but not a lot of listings, and there's not quite There's a few on the market, as you can see, but then you're starting to hit like £6, £6.15 before you're seeing people with multiples. So these cheap ones that you're seeing here and around about, ladies and gents, potentially pick those up if you are looking to play this strategy. If you're not and you've got this card lying around, probably a good time to shift it, because I can imagine that this card's going to get a reprint. But saying that, the secret rares always tend to just go back up in price, especially when it's just the first edition print. So again, a little bit of a caveat, you might want to hold on to it, but I'd potentially look to shift it, especially if you've got other cards that you're looking to get a hold of. Access Code Talker, again, I just wanted to look at this card, mainly because I'm seeing it hit a lot of end boards, and most notably the Battles of Legends Crystal Revenge copy. It was the most recent copy, and it was trending downwards for a period of time, but it's starting to trend back up, and with the NAWCQ, seeing it in action, it's only going to go up. And Konami know what they're doing with cards like this. These cards, they kind of like starve them within the market. So they reprint the cards, but then they reprint them in rarities which are most notoriously or most notably difficult to get a hold of anyway. So you're looking at like secret rares, prismatic secret rares, like starlights. Again, is that even a reprint when you've seen a starlight? So definitely a card worth keeping in mind. Not a lot of listings. I think the MGED premium gold rare is also around about this price as well, which is crazy, especially as people just don't like gold rares. So definitely worth keeping in mind, ladies and gents, as a card that you might want to just kind of like get a hold of, because if it does miss a reprint, this card's just going to go up in price again. It's not even a joke. Like, Konami know what they're doing, and then they'll probably print it in like, I don't know, the equivalent of like Magnificent Mavens, for example, later on in the year. So definitely worth keeping that in mind if your strategy needs Access Code Talker. Chaos Angel, again, this is using a number of strategies, Dragon Link being one of them, but most notably Labyrinth for using Chaos Angel. They can just make him with either the Chandra Galea or the Stovey Torby, as well as one of your big lady Labyrinths. So powerful card. Again, it's starting to trend up again. I think when I reviewed this card or looked at this card a couple of weeks ago, it was a little bit higher than this, but it's starting to slowly trend back towards that price. So if you do need this card, I don't know when it's going to get a reprint, and that is a tough one. Cyberstorm Access is only recently out, so I can only imagine it might not get a reprint before the year end is out. So I don't know. If your deck needs this card, definitely worth investing in it now, or even see if you can just trade for it, because £40 is a bit of a hefty price for a card that is not necessarily as a staple compared to like Access Code Talker, for example. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gents. But I feel like after the NAWCQ, the hype is just going to blow this card up a little bit. So just keep an eye on it if you kind of like wanted to invest in this card. Garura, again, another most notable card. Labyrinth are now playing Super Poly. I know I'm talking a lot about Labyrinth, but it's what I've been seeing quite a lot of. I think just because of the feature matches, like I said, once we get a bit of a breakdown of the deck lists and the entrants, I'll have a bit more of an overview of where the market really is going to be going, just because I want to see some representation. This is Super Poly target, obviously. And as you can see, it's got one printing and it's low on quantities. This was down to about like £12-13, but like now it's starting to like bubble back up, and you've seen it at like 18s, 20s. So definitely worth keeping in mind, ladies and gents, if you need this card. Great Super Poly target, gets you a draw. It's a really good card. Can be a little bit of a sneaky tech in time, specifically with the double battle damage that it inflicts. So keep that in mind. Next up, Kashtira Fenrir. Now, this is an interesting one. The price at the moment, you're looking like 24s, 25s, less than 30s basically for some of the more notable sellers here. People are speculating that it's going to get hit on the ban list, and to be honest, I can see this getting the Pancratops treatment. So I feel like Kashtira Fenrir could potentially go to 1, and with that, it can search another card, but it can't search itself, which is the most broken thing about Fenrir. Just gives you just automatic follow-up. Now, this is being played in like Vanquish Soul, most notably, which I have seen a little bit over the weekend of the NAWCQ, because it provides the attributes for your Vanquish Soul monsters to kind of like reveal and pop and do whatever they're doing. So Fenrir is just a crazy card, and I feel like along with Pancratops, it probably needs to go to 1. I don't want it to, because I feel like it's a powerful card. It's a good card, but I feel like Konami just know what they're doing. It's already got its ultimate rare print, which is always something to make a note of, ladies and gents. So if you want to play your ultimate rare copy, Konami's probably going to be like, yeah, go ahead, but you're not searching another Fenrir, so keep that in mind. So definitely a card that's worth considering. If you've got this, obviously hold on to it. It's a staple. It can go in a majority of decks. It doesn't really conflict with too much stuff depending on what deck you're playing. And you're looking for a playset for about £75. Previously, this card was just like crazy. I'm sure this card was at like 50s, £60 for an ultra rare, which was just crazy. So definitely keep that in mind. Next, onto the penny stunk section. I did miss this out last week, mainly because I think I can't remember what I was talking about. But penny stunks, ladies and gents, cards that are less than like £5. This card is crazy. IP Masquerena. I know that it's only just really recently got a reprint, but IP Masquerena always goes up in price. It's a staple extra deck card. It works with a number of strategies, especially if you can afford like link monsters in your strategy. That's not, you're not locked into a certain summoning extra deck type, for example, or locked into a certain summoning mechanic. IP Masquerena is just crazy. So definitely a card worth considering, especially at this price. This was going up to like £20, and listings were low. Now you can see there's quite a few on the market, and you see them for like £4 here, bubbling up to like £5, and even at £5 it's a steal. For a secret rare, ladies and gents, I probably wouldn't even waste my time. I've got a couple coming. If you want this card, it's probably a good time to pick it up just because it's so cheap. Another card, this is a bit of a heads up. Obviously, Crystal Beats are a bit of a fan favorite. I've been messing about with the deck myself. I like the idea behind the deck. It's different. It does its own little thing. And Golden Rule definitely pushes his strategy a little bit forward. Now, I have seen a few builds with the Revolution Synchron, which is coming out in the next core set, I believe. Is it Judas Nexus? I'm not too sure. It might be out in Dune. I think it is. But I've seen a few end boards that it can now make, and this card definitely facilitates that. Especially with going into like Power Tool Dragon, you can search it and then just pop off from there. So definitely a crazy card. It is an equipped card. It does so much for the deck, and going forward I can see it's potentially going up in price. It's only got one print. I've got 3 copies, but I'm also going to buy a couple just in case they kind of like skyrocket in price, because I feel like at 70p, 80p, less than £1 basically, you could have another couple of play sets basically just to be sitting on to get ready to flip should the deck do anything. Now, it is a bit of a gamble, and like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but this is just something that I'm considering to do, and if you wanted a heads up, ladies and gents, you could potentially do this as well. Another penny stunk, Macros Cosmos. Look at it, look. The most expensive copy is 72p. You're looking at like 20p for like a copy. Just get some copies of these, guys. It's not even a joke. Like, Macros Cosmos shuts down so many decks in a format. That's why D-Shift is such a problem, because playing through a lot of your cards just go into the banish pile. Just a lot of decks just can't do it. There's a few decks that can, Kashtira most notably, but just like at this price, this card was fairly expensive as well before. Now it's like nothing. It's like being given away. So grab a couple of copies, just hold on to them. You never know, they might appreciate in price, or you might potentially want to use them going forward, depending on how the decks pan out in the future. Another card I want to talk about, and shout out to my friend Tom. So he came to my house the other day, he opened up one of my folders and he was like, why have you got so many Drew Sperms? Like, I had a page full of Drew Sperms. It was crazy. And I've still got them, and I'm still collecting them. Like, whenever Drew Sperm comes out, like, wow, whenever I see a copy, I'm always trading for one. I was just like, I'll take that, throw it in with a few trades that I'm doing, mainly because it's an aggressive card. It's a somewhat of a board breaker. Once it leaves the field, you can target a monster on your opponent's side of the field, send it to the graveyard, so it forces an interaction, and it can banish a card out of your opponent's grave. So to me, this is a no-brainer. Magnum obviously is better because it provides you with a body on field as well as follow-up, but Jury Swarm is probably the most aggressive out of the bestial monsters, well, along with Boldrake obviously. But Jury Swarm's definitely a card, like, if you haven't got some, I'd invest in some. I'll be honest, like, even if you just have a play set, just get a hold of them. And at the price that they're at now, considering where they were, I was looking at some at like 12s, 13s, 14s, back when like tier 4 map was out. This card is like tanked in price, so definitely a good time to pick these up. And at £3, £4, yeah, let me see, £3-4, even if you went up to £5, I still think this card is worth getting a hold of. But as you can see, there's a couple here for less than £3, so you could potentially get a playset for less than £10, ladies and gents. So this is a no-brainer for me. So yeah. And the final card I wanted to talk about, and this is with an eye on Duality and Shadows Light. Now I know I mentioned this previously, but this card's slowly starting to bubble up, so we're looking at £4-5 now, and it meets the penny stamp threshold, but I can see this card going up. Let me see the versions. Let's have a look. There's 14 versions. I didn't even realize. Now some of these must be Japanese, isn't it? So you got a quarter century secret rare. That's crazy. That is crazy. Oh, that's in Japan though. So you got gold rare, and I think you got the Battles of Legends rare as well. Yeah, Heroes Revenge, and the Megatins. I think the Megatin was a super, I believe. Yeah, I think so. But anyway, nonetheless, Herald of the Arclight, Duality, Shadows Light. Like I've seen a few builds with like Alistair and friends where this card just comes out and it's just like, wow, this card's still a problem. Macros Cosmos, again, that effect is crazy, and Omnigate nevertheless. So definitely a card worth picking up, or if you're trading for some cards, definitely just get them thrown in. But if you do just have a few copies in your binder or whatever, ladies and gents, you're sitting on a little bit of money. It's almost just past the threshold for a penny stunk, so just keep that in mind. But anyway, ladies and gents, we find ourselves at the end of another video. Are there any cards that you feel like I should have spoke about in this market watch? Definitely get at me in the comment section below, as I'm potentially going to be doing another one this week, so I'll definitely have a look at those cards. But if you did like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.